Now, I get this question all the time. What would have happened if my wife had survived her last 28 days in ICU, an intensive care unit at Ronald Reagan UCLA? And this is the first time seeing me again. My wife went to her seventh rehabilitation facility, and unfortunately she passed away a little over 5 years ago. And really, this is about a cautionary tale to understand, and I want other people to understand that late-stage alcoholism is not a way to go. It's something I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. It is one of the most horrific ways to die and to experience life and the end of your life. It's horrible for the people around you. It's physically one of the worst ways to pass on because it will affect all your organs. In my wife's case, she was on kidney dialysis. She had fallen down a flight of stairs in her seventh rehab. So most of her internal organs were pretty shot. Her liver had cirrhosis, she had a fatty liver, her pancreas was failing, she had intestinal damage, which was the biggest problem. Her large intestines ruptured, sending a lot of fecal matter around her body, and unfortunately it caused a lot of infection. There was infection really in all her organs, including her brain. Her brain had been affected by years and years of wine and beer drinking, unfortunately. And people ask me, well, what if she had survived? In some ways, it was a blessing that she didn't, because she would have had so many physical and mental problems if she had. But let's continue the conversation. Again, real quick, I have a complete coaching program. It's really designed to help both the alcoholic and the family. Set up a call. The link is in the link tree. It takes about 45 minutes. We're going to do a Zoom call. I'm going to do deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. Really set up a blueprint for the rest of your life so the person can obtain sustainable sobriety. The call is free. The course is definitely not, but I'm looking for people at a certain commitment level. So set up a call. And really, the answer to this question really sets up, the horror of late-stage alcoholism, and to realize that you will do damage to your body, permanent damage to your body, even if you do survive. Because I know people are able to, eventually survive. It's about 5-10% who stage 4 when somebody is completely consumed with alcohol. I mean, when it's their entire day of consuming alcohol, recovering from it, and then trying to gather up the alcohol for that particular day, it becomes their life, and it's a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, even if someone does somehow find sobriety, even at that level, they're going to have a lot of physical problems. If my wife had survived, she probably would have needed a liver transplant. She would have had just horrible problems. She would have been on kidney dialysis, maybe for the rest of her life. She definitely had some kind of, I think she had Wernicke-Korsakoff, which is a form of dementia. So even if she had survived, she would have had to deal with, not being able to walk and talk, basically like having a stroke. I mean, essentially that's what it is. Some people call it wet brain. These are things that she would have had to have dealt with if she survived. It would have been a horrible existence, even if she had survived this 28-day stay in the intensive care unit. For some reason, the doctors, and I've talked about it in many other videos, but they believed that they could save her, and I wasn't on the same page with them. I didn't think that she was going to be salvageable. I really didn't at this point. She had fallen down the stairs at our house. She had damaged her head. She had hit her head more than once. She probably had a concussion on top of Wernicke-Korsakoff. There wasn't too much that wasn't a problem in her body. She had had her knees replaced because she had gained weight and blew out her knees, and eventually her hips. There's just so many just physical and emotional problems. And I talk about this not to beat her up, not to use her as an example and unload in this particular fashion, but to learn from it. I want people to learn from this experience that I had so that other people can recognize that and say, you know what? I don't want to go down this road. There's either going to be two reactions. I don't want to go down this road, or if you see a loved one who's an alcoholic and they say, oh, I'm not as bad as her. I'm not as bad as that person. Okay? Nothing could be further from the truth. My wife used to say it all the time when I used to go to, outpatient, counseling with her, and people would get up and tell their story. She would say, "I'm not as bad as that person." I would say, "Yeah, you are. You're just as bad, if not worse. You just don't see it." And I hope these videos can draw that out and realize it's not a matter of if this is going to happen, because if you continue to drink on a regular basis, it's a matter of when. And it will happen to you. It will break down your body and mind. Alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. Your body is not going to escape the wrath of putting poison, ethanol, into your body on a regular basis. And if you're the alcoholic, I don't know if this is a deterrent, but you have to realize the effect that you're having on the people in your life. When Amanda was, in ICU, her parents visited her sister. She had friends that came down from Northern California, 500 miles to see her. And everyone knew that she wasn't going to make it, including myself. My son never did go see her, which is unfortunate, which is fortunate for him, but it's unfortunate for the situation. He was in college, and there was no point in dragging him out of college to go see his mother, and I'm kind of glad he didn't. I didn't want him to remember his mother in this horrible, horrible state that she was in the last month. And I tell this story so that just other people don't have to go through it. It's not something you want to go through. And if these stories don't deter you, or make you realize the road you're going down, or if you have a family member that's going down this road, be aware. And if you're going to hang in there with them, be aware of what you're going to expect. And if you can't hang in there with them, that's understandable. Believe me. I hope this message helps. If she had lived, she would have been worse off than most human beings. It would not have been a quality of life of any kind. And I hope that's come through. Again, the memoir is called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. Again, the link tree, you can go right to my website and purchase it. There's an international link. You can buy this anywhere in the world. It's also available on Amazon. The ebook is also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening. Today I'm going to talk about something I've never talked about before, and it goes like this. Why do I have this page? Why do I talk about alcohol use disorder? Why do I tell stories about my wife who passed away from AUD 5 years ago, and we were married for 25 years? Why do I do this? Because so many people, when someone passes away, they move on, and really nobody talks about that person again, or they might reference to them later, even a spouse. Why am I talking about my wife even years after she passed away? And this is really an evolutionary process. It didn't just fall from the sky why I do this. And it was a realization over time that I had so much knowledge and experience on the subject, and I realized I could help so many people. But it really came from, if you haven't read this book yet, it came from the first chapter in the book, which was the initial evolution. And there's a character in this book, and if she sees this, she'll probably laugh, but the character's name is Nancy. That's not her real name. I didn't want to use her real name because I knew this book would probably be all over the world, and I just wanted her to be anonymous, and that's an important part of recovering in alcohol. But what I'm getting at is Nancy was Amanda's best friend at the time. In fact, she was her drinking buddy for probably the last 2 or 3 years of her life, and off and on for 10 or 15 years. She had 5 kids, and her oldest son was good friends with my son, going up through elementary school and high school until they graduated. The thing is, she used to supply Amanda with alcohol when she was having her operations. I knew she was, and sometimes I had to chase her out of the house. She was an alcoholic herself. She is an alcoholic herself, and she was going through a very bitter divorce when Amanda passed away, and she's going through a very difficult time in her life when Amanda passed away. And the reason why I talk about it, because Nancy became the metaphor for really kind of why I do this, because the first chapter in this book, and I'm going to continue with this, is the two of us driving to go see Amanda and hold her hand as they turned off the machines and she passed away. And I'm going to continue the story. So the last day of Amanda's life, the hospital called me up, and just surprisingly, and I've talked about this before, they told me that she has about an hour to live. And I was like, what are you kidding me? You guys said she had like a day or so, and we were going to come down this afternoon and kind of do this. And they said, well, she slipped faster than we thought. Her blood pressure has decreased incrementally, and she's got almost no blood pressure. get here as soon as you can. I go, I live 100 miles away. So I called Nancy up because I know Nancy wanted to say goodbye to her one last time. She hadn't had a chance to go down to UCLA, which was 100 miles where we lived. So, I mean, she lived about a mile away. I mean, I zipped over there. I said, get in the car. And the thing is, she was inebriated at the time, even going down to see her friend die from alcohol use disorder. She had been drinking that day, and it was pretty apparent. But, you know, it was quiet. We drove down there, and we did get there in time, which was a, you know, important element of it. And this is really the first chapter. It's you know, it's really the beginning of the book, but it's the end of the story, which is an important element. Knowing that that's the end in the beginning. You know, she's not going to make it. This is the cautionary tale. But you know, Nancy that day was very emotional. She was very close to Amanda, and I think I really wanted to bring her down there so that, you know, maybe it would instill something in her to realize you don't want to go down the path that your best friend is going down. So, I mean, I held Amanda's hand, she held Amanda's hand, and we watched her pass away. We both watched along with her mother and some of her other family members turn the machines off. And Amanda passed away within 3 minutes of the machines being turned off. And I remember that experience for Nancy was very emotional for her. Because she realized, you know, what alcohol had done in her life and the choices that she had made. It certainly had a big element in why her marriage crumbled, and I'm sure it was a lot of stress and anxiety in her family as well. But realizing the end of the road and seeing somebody actually pass away from alcohol use disorder, I think really changed her mindset to a big degree. And she made some other decisions after that, and I did help her after that. And I have a good story to tell as we move on. 2 weeks after Amanda passed away, you know, Nancy was still drinking, and I think she realized that she had to stop. And she had been to rehab, I think, a couple times. And her family wouldn't take her to the Betty Ford Clinic. They kind of had enough of her. She couldn't find a ride. She was going to get an Uber. I said, you know, I'll take you, okay? So, I mean, I took her down there. This is actually the second time I took her down there because her family wouldn't take her. And, I mean, the first time Amanda said, take her. Somebody's got to take her. So I was the designated person. I mean, she's a very nice person, and I do care a lot about her. It was important for me at the time, and it still is, that she was to get healthy because I needed somebody of importance in my life to get healthy. And I dropped her off at the Betty Ford Clinic, and she was very inebriated. I mean, she's from Boston, and she was very loud. And I remember when I dropped her off, and I think I just kind of had enough of it. I'd had enough of being around people who were alcohol dependent, and I was just kind of burned out. And I dropped her off, and I left. And to make a long story short, she did go through 30 days of that program. In fact, I even visited her a couple times. And she got through that program. And of last March of this year, she celebrated 5 years of sobriety. So she's going on 5.5 years of sobriety because of Amanda, because she watched her best friend die. Nancy, is the first person that Amanda saved. And I realized through Nancy and through this evolution that the experiences that people have by understanding this disease, that you can save so many people by exposing the truth, by telling the story and how ugly and grisly and horrible it is. You can save people's life by exposing the truth, because unless you expose the truth and normalize talking about this, you're not going to save anybody. There's a couple of reasons why I mentioned this Nancy story. One thing is she's never mentioned again in the book, ever. I mean, it's just that first chapter because the rest of it goes back to the beginning. So it's important to realize this is where it kind of started. It kind of started with Amanda's death saved her best friend, and that's the metaphor. And in reality, that's what really happened. Did Nancy save herself? Absolutely. But I think Amanda's death was certainly a catalyst in me taking her down and getting her the help that she needed. She was ready. I think that watching her friend die made her ready. Now, a lot of people ask me, why am I so graphic telling stories about my wife? And now, the people who get it, get it. The people who have had these experiences and it resonates with them, they get it. The people who don't think I'm just a horrible human being and I'm just an evil, narcissistic, let it go kind of person, can't let it go kind of person, they couldn't be wrong. They couldn't be more wrong. And that's not what this is about. This is about saving people's lives, exposing the truth, and normalizing talking about alcohol use disorder. And that's the reality. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger every day. And if you haven't picked up a copy yet, you can get a copy of Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. You can go right to the link tree on this page. You can go to my website. There's a PayPal button right there. You can also get it on the international link where you can buy this anywhere in the world. It's available anywhere in the world. You can also get it on Amazon, the hard copy. It's also on ebook, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening.